I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on our self-sufficiency programs, but I do want to tell you a little bit about this. We do have an FSS program where people are encouraged to work or get into job training. If they do that, any increase in income is escrowed for them to be used for tuition, buy a new car, or any other self-sufficiency motivations, home ownership. In our home ownership program, we've housed 43 homeowners since its inception in '04, but I'm very proud to say that 24 of those 43 have been housed since 2009 by Cheryl Marsh, who runs our home ownership program at the Housing Authority. Oh, wait, hang on. Yeah, 24. We just had a closing last month. So I hit it. That's a nickel tour of HCBP. Let me move on to LIPH. I'll try to do it quickly and then do questions. Okay. Currently, in our public housing portfolio, we have 3,036 apartments citywide. They have certain designations on some, not for others. Some are for families, some are for elderly and disabled. These properties, unlike the HCBP program, are owned, operated, and managed by the CHA, i.e., we're the landlord, folks who apply and participate are the tenant, there's a lease agreement. We're like the bottom of that triangle we talked about. Here, just like in HCBP, the families pay 30% of their adjusted gross income for rent directly to us. We collected at our 18 offices around the city. But these families are of low income, i.e. the higher standard that I talked about a little while ago. Okay, I've heard a lot of talk about patterns in public housing. So what we've tried to do for you is graph over time, going back to 1938, what's happened with our public housing units. And to further explore that with a bit more meaning, I think you'll see this slide. Between 2000 and 2005, I'd like to run through the trending with you. We lost Macaulay Homes, 590, we replaced it with the Villages. We lost Poss Homes, there was no replacement. We demolished it pursuant to a Hope 6 demolition grant. At some point during that period, we demolished Harriet Tubman with, I'm not sure if it was a Hope 6 demo, but it was a selective demolition where we took down the poorest units and actually basically lowered the density a bit. Reverend Johnson at 31 went to the Oaks in 2007 with 57 units. The Gurley Street Apartments was sold in 2009 with no replacement. Fairmount Apartments went from 28 to 18, which will happen this spring. Edward Steiner at 50 will morph into Maple Hills with 48 at the end of the year. Now, I want to excuse myself. In the back page of the book, when I was doing these numbers, I was kind of noodling with numbers this morning, and I didn't get it into the presentation, but I have provided you with a one-page summary of the net effect of this. So, what you're seeing on this slide is a unit loss in public housing of 971 units, with a gain of 398 units, with a net loss of 573. But, as I said, that's only one side of our house. If you were to look to the other side of our house in the voucher program, in the right-hand column on your sheet, you'll see that between the same period of 2000 and 2011, we gained 736 vouchers in our regular program. Now, I'm not talking about Bastion or the SROs. I'm talking just a regular garden variety HCBP program. We had a net gain of 736 vouchers, for an overall gain of subsidized units during the same period of 163 vouchers. So actually today, we are 163 units ahead of where we were in 2000 when you look at the two programs. Now this doesn't take into consideration Tubman, which is on the front burner now. At the end of the Tubman, we plan to get 370 new vouchers for Tubman, and we're demolishing 440 units. So we expect that number of 163 is going to drop down to about 90 as a gain at the end of Tubman. I found that interesting. The developments, I want to just give you the list that we have, and that shows you the numbers in each of the sites. So we've got 2501 in family, and a total of 669 elderly disabled. I've included Dogwood Manor. As you know, the city owns Dogwood Manor, and we manage it for you, but I have included that as available housing stock for elderly disabled. If you look behind tab 3 of your documents, you'll see a really detailed sheet about all of our developments, which is a kind of a handy reference guide if you want to know acreage or square footage or bedroom size. But I didn't choose to put it in here, but you have it if you need it. happy to answer any questions about that. Other real estate, a lot of questions I get on the Puss Homes land over on Market Street. It's 20 acres. That land is still for sale. We have a very small lot on Grove Street. It's right across from College Hill Court. It's right on the corner as you come down the hill coming onto Grove Street. If you were to take a left to go by the old Dollar General, it would be right there on the left. We also have our Holtzclaw Central Office, which is for sale and or lease, with 30,000 square feet. We recently effected a sale over in Alton Park. It was 11 acres for a light sea development that should be coming out of the ground. It was a 9% tax credit deal, and we should be seeing that coming out soon. I say we, that's a royal we. We're not doing it. Housing Authority is not. It's a gentleman named Mike Hedges. Let's talk about the budget. In 11, we received $11 million for public housing. Thankfully, we didn't receive any proration, so we didn't get that cut at the end of the year that we had come to expect. In my experience in public housing, I've seen it as low as 83%, which really puts a hurt on us, especially with aging portfolio. In 2011, we received $5.2 million capital fund. Capital fund, although it comes kind of in a separate pocket, a separate bucket, I'd say, it relates directly to public housing. It can only be used for public housing, for demo, dispo, rebuilding, and some operational support. Tenant rent, last year we collected $5 million. So that gives you a little picture of the money we're bringing in. The waiting list status for public housing. We've not gone to lotteries on the public housing side of the house. All of our family developments are currently closed, with the exception of College Hill Courts. Why are they closed? Because right now we're moving residents from Tubman. Many residents in Tubman do not desire to live in HCBP housing. They don't want a voucher, they don't want to move, they like having a CHA be their landlord. So we're reserving units. As they become available, people can move into any variety of sites that we have. Boynton, which is one of our elderly disabled sites, is closed. All of our other elderly disabled developments are open, which includes Mary Walker, Gateway, and Dogwood. Currently, on our waiting list, we've got 1,355 families and 94 elderly. I have a note at the bottom because I think it's important. Oftentimes people will call and say, where am I on the waiting list? And they'll say, oh, you're number 34. And then suddenly the next day they're number 37, and they don't know why. And it's because when we do administrative transfers, when we're doing the significant mod work and we have to move people, in our plan, we say that those administrative transfers, although they don't have a preference per se, they're going to take precedence over people who already, people who are not living with us, who don't have a need to move. So that's why, if you feel that question, I get that one a lot, and it's hard to understand, but that's generally the reason, especially in this climate, while we're moving people out of Tubman.